Shalom, everyone!
Or should we say bellow, because the Minion movies.
Or like we could say Scoop from like Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, welcome back to the Generation Gap.
Yeah.
This is the only lighthearted podcast starring two giggly girls, gathering people from different generations to discuss some not so lighthearted topics. Today's hello was in Uzbek.
Wow.
Wow. Guys, today's episode is going to be like full of action and comedy and romance and thrill and mystery
And lights and cameras.
and actions, but they can't see our actions. But anyways, this episode is going to be like the blockbuster boss baby of our podcast, pun intended. But anyways, today's episode is called A Feeling for Fiction. I'm so excited.
Same.
Okay, so let's introduce our very talented cast for today. Our first guest is someone who literally ate our head trying to decide which episode she would want to come for. And she's the only one who's got the privilege to choose which episode she would want to come for. But she's like the perfect person for this episode because she's a crazy fiction fan. So please welcome our absolute best friend, the girl who completes our trio. We have Ruth Cicy from Gen Z.
Hello. Hi, Ruth.
She's the supporting actress of our film, you know.
Next, we have an IT consultant, senior IT consultant, but a movie mafia.
Movie mafia.
In disguise. Please welcome Mr. Damian Chelverajan.
Yay, woohoo. He's the protagonist of our film. And last but not least, we have someone who I consider to be the most knowledgeable when it comes to movies and stuff. I think it's safe to say that he's the biggest movie buff on this planet, which is why coming on our podcast for the second time, we have my brother Ronak Mahesh from Gen Z.
Hey everyone, I'm thrilled to be back.
The supporting actor of our episode as well. Alrighty, so guys, today's episode is going to be so much fun. Also, sorry in advance if it's like really long because I'm sure we just have a lot to talk about fiction and stuff. Okay.
So we want to start off with the most iconic question.
That the world needs and wants to hear, and we are going to address now.
Yeah. Which is better, movies or books?
Okay,
Movies.
wait. Yeah. Movies? For me, it's books. What do you guys prefer, movies or books?
I feel like books because that way you can like imagine the scene the way you want it.
Exactly.
So-
Yes.
I feel it's a bit more, I don't know, thrilling.
Books.
Yeah, with books.
So for me, I'm like a very visual person. I like to see the action or see what's happening. You know, I want to witness all the magic of the book on the big screen. So I prefer movies, even though I enjoy reading the books as well. So if I
Mr.
can,
Damien?
It's an interesting question because when I was 2 decades ago going to school, we were actually encouraged to read books. You see, those days movies weren't as readily available as now. So used to read a lot of books. But I'm glad that I read the books. You know why? Because when I watch movies now, from the books that I've read, I totally see a different perspective and the creativity is totally different. So reading books actually enhances your creativity and your imagination, and that's really good if you're in a creative space like in a profession that you're going to do or something. But movies, movies make you feel your senses, like you feel like happiness, you feel sadness, everything that goes on the movie, you feel it. So I think both have plus points and negative points, but I would prefer movies as a visual person. Yeah, I would love watching movies.
Ooh, so we have like 3 people who are supporting movies and only Ruth and I for books, but it's okay. We can fight for our books. Even I'm someone for books because like, firstly, I just genuinely like reading books because here's the thing, okay? Reading a book is like a journey. Yeah, because for me, like depending on when I'm reading the book, it can take me weeks or months to finish one book. And it's like, a journey, like, after just that hectic day before going to bed, I'll read a chapter of the book, and it's just so like relaxing and you feel something. But a movie is like, okay, what, 2 hours, 3 hours max. So you can't just like summarize everything and just pack it into like 2 or 3 hours. Okay, those 2 or 3 hours are good, but is it a journey? No.
I would disagree. I'd say it is a journey because what would take you otherwise months to cover by reading words can be just seen in 2 to 3 hours in a movie, as you said yourself. So,
True,
Harry
true.
Potter, for example, Order of the Phoenix is like the longest book. It has 600, 700 pages. It would take about like a month to read if you read like every day consistently. Whereas a movie is just like 2.5 hours. So, you're getting the whole story minus some minor details. So it's pretty
Exactly,
nice.
those details are actually what are really, really, they just finish it, and they just like pull everything together. It's important. It's important.
Well, yeah. So I recently, in fact, just before the podcast, I finished reading this Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So this was a movie made 2 years ago, and the director put it into a novel as well. And what he couldn't show in the movie, what he couldn't elaborate on in the movie, such as the characters' thought processes and stuff, that is all detailed in the book, which was pretty cool to read. So it adds extra like depth to the characters. Yeah.
And another thing why I would say why books are better is because in a book, right, the writer, of course, they're trying to convey something that the reader should like be able to imagine. But then again, it's in the form of words, right? So it's up to us how we imagine it. So the picture that gets painted in our head will be different for everyone. And so that's what like, enhances our creativity, our imagination. And so what I may be thinking may be completely different to what someone else reading the same book may be thinking. Like if I've read a description of this particular character, okay, I know that this character is this. But my still like, the overall picture that's painted in my head may not be the same that's painted in your head or someone else's head. So, but when you're watching a movie, it's like you're shown something, you have to believe the way it is, and you can't like say otherwise.
I mean, there are movies that, the director leaves it up to your imagination about what has happened there, such as Inception, the ending of that.
No, that's the ending. I hate those movies because then I come out of the theater like, what happened?
Yeah, he never really clarifies what actually happened at the end. Was it a dream or was it real? So it's kind of left up to your imagination. If done right, movies can be better than books, I'd say.
So, guys, to add to your
But yeah.
thought, your discussion, sci-fi movies, right? If you read books, such as, I don't know whether Matrix was a book, but you can't imagine Matrix in a book. It's totally
Yeah,
different.
exactly.
It's because Matrix has it's so much different than your imagination. It's totally a new dimension. So
Yeah.
movies have a way of portraying your imagination, your senses of thinking how this would be, and it would usually directors have really talented directors give really good content. For example, my favorite director is Christopher Nolan. So his thought process and way of thinking is totally different. Maybe
Yeah.
reading a book, it's limited to things that you know of. Like the things you have seen, the
Yeah, I
things you
agree.
have watched, and things like that. But if you watch a movie, the dimensions are totally different. They bring in things that, wow, is that the way it looks like, or is that the way it works, and things like that. So yeah, so the books of course is really nice, if it's something like what do you call the medieval movies, like Lord of the Rings, movies like that. You can actually imagine, Narnia and things like that. If the lion talks, and you can imagine that. But sci-fi movies, sci-fi books, it's very difficult to imagine it, because you will not have that capacity to imagine what it looks like, or maybe what they're trying to say. So yeah, there are two aspects of it. Books actually, as I told you, I loved reading books when I was young. I don't know the people who wrote the books. You guys have read it, like Tale of Two Cities, Moby Dick, Agatha Christie's, and those books were really nice. I really love reading books of detective stories, Nancy Drew and Hercule Poirot. So those detective movies actually increases your intellect of guessing things. You know, how would you
Yeah.
guess who is what's the plot, what are they trying to do, and who's the villain or who is the victim, and things like that. So those kind of books actually increases the way you think also, not only imagination. So yeah, so but nowadays movies are so advanced, you know, the things that you imagined are not actually what the movie actually shows. So yeah, so it's book I would say, to add to my point, movies are a bit advanced than a book, because imagination is does play a role in your book reading, but movies, sci-fi movies and all, I don't think you can actually gather that kind of imagination, creativity, uh, like watching a movie.
Yeah, I agree. So, as you said, Christopher Nolan, he makes all these amazing sci-fi movies. So if you've seen Tenet, it's like they're moving back through time, and the bullets are actually going back into the gun when they shoot them and stuff. So that would be really tough to actually put into words. If it was a book first, I don't think half the people would understand what is going on.
Okay, I had to give it away. But like movies, I think sometimes can be a little more relaxing than reading a book. And it's a lot of people that come together and make a movie. Like there's a huge amount of people that work for a movie, so I respect that. But I feel like at the end of the day, I like books better. But still, okay, it's the art of storytelling that's appreciated over here.
Yeah.
Okay, so guys, now for segment 2, we're going on to the rising action of our episode. This is actually something I'm quite excited to hear from you guys. So whenever we're discussing movies, we always talk about the performance of the actors, the actresses. But I think now we should really talk about the directors or the writers of books. So, do you guys have any favorite director or writer who you guys think like always hits bullseye in all of their pieces? They never go wrong, and all of their pieces are just like perfection.
Yeah, so for me, that would be Quentin Tarantino. I absolutely love his movies. So, the first one I saw was around 3 to 4 years ago, and it was called Pulp Fiction. It's this classic movie, and he has a way of putting things. He tells you the story out of order, and then it all comes together at the ending, and it makes a lot of sense. And he has this way of rewriting history. So, as I said about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, he actually rewrote history of the 1960s when there were a couple of murders that happened in Hollywood by this hippie cult. And the way he changes it, the way he adds his own flair to it, the twists and just the jokes, everything about his style just like works for me very well. And I think he's never made a single bad movie. So he has made 9 movies, and he's gonna retire, he says, after his 10th one. But all 9 of them are complete like masterpieces to me.
Yeah, I do agree with him, because the director Quentin, I can't spell his, I mean, I can't pronounce the other part of his name. His his movies are really really nice. I watched a movie called I think Django. Yeah, that was an awesome movie. Yeah, that was like
Yeah.
really out of this world. You know,
Yeah.
the way of the people acting on it, and the storyline,
Yeah.
and the message he's trying to give out. It was awesome, you know. So I think he's a really
Yeah.
good director, and
Yeah.
it's a pity I didn't know he was going to retire from 10 movies. He has a new movie. What's his 10th movie? Is it already spoken of?
No. He said he's working on the script right now. It'll probably start shooting in around another 2 years and then come out in 3 to 4 years. Yeah.
Okay, looking forward to it.
Yeah, same here.
Cool. Ruth?
I don't have a particular movie director, but book author, I like Jane Austen. She's the author of the book Pride and Prejudice and Emma. Those are my two favorite books. I haven't read all of her books, but these are my two favorites, and I feel like she's such a good writer because the way she makes the characters really dynamic through her words, I think that was really effective, and it really it's quite thrilling to read her books. So not thrilling really, but you really feel a sense of emotion through her words.
Yeah, Ruth likes emotional books. Shadow and Bone.
Shadow and Bone.
Shadow and Bone isn't emotional, but the
But
characters are kinda, yeah.
okay.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah. Nivi,
Mm-hmm.
do you have anyone?
No. I don't read books.
I know.
read-
Someone's you fall asleep when you read books, no?
Yeah.
Okay, but
But
anyone? No?
no.
Okay, for me, I'm gonna say J.K. Rowling because do I have to explain why? Like, come on. She created the Harry Potter universe, and I'm very, very late to jump on the bus, I know, and I've said this a million times, but I am obsessed, and she's just so marvelous. Like, every time I read, like, I'm still only on the third book, but every single time I read her book, I'm just like, this woman is magical. Like, how is she coming up with all of this? Like, the power she has, okay, and plus the struggles and stuff that she went through before she could publish a series. Like, so many people rejected Harry Potter. Like, firstly, how dare they? Like, hello, Harry Potter is just so good. How would you, like, reject it? But secondly, like, the way she pulled through all of that and managed to create what she's created today, it's so, so, so impressive. And I don't even have words to describe it, but oh my god, she's just too good, okay? And this, okay, wait, I have something to add to the previous segment's whole debate about movies and books. You know, after reading how beautifully she like conveys her ideas and stuff about the Harry Potter universe, I'm kind of like nervous to see the movies because what if it doesn't live up to what I have imagined?
Oh, no.
Like, you know, I have this huge expectation, and like, what if it just doesn't, like, you know, live up to that, and I like get disappointed?
So no, you definitely will not, because trust me, I've seen the movies like multiple times, all of them, and the way they have done the effects of all the magic and the ghosts, the Hogwarts ghosts that roam around, about Voldemort.
Thieves.
Yeah, and them on flying brooms. Everything looks very magical. Like, that's how I actually watched the movies before reading the books, and like,
Which is very bad.
no, I mean, the books do have extra detail and they change a few things in the movies, but I say I still prefer the movies because they just have a way of capturing the magic that words don't, according to me.
Yeah, same. The Harry
I
Potter
think it's-
series was like, for me, I couldn't find, like, it was not a book that I was like, oh my gosh, I need to finish reading. This is so captivating. I felt the movies did that better.
Yeah.
Oh, that's okay. Then maybe I should watch the movies, but after I finish the books. And you know, another thing I really, really love about J.K. Rowling is that even in movies and even in books, I hate it when like everything's just explicitly said, like, okay, this girl is bad. Like, okay, what? But then, you know, the way she like shows things, it's so, so cool because it's just like, you know, I feel like that's why her books are so elaborate because she describes everything in the way that, like, okay, I don't even have words anymore, but then
He's fangirling.
yeah, but then like the way she, and also, okay, I'm saying like 10 million things at the same time, but another thing about her writing style which I really love is the way that she conveys the personality of her characters and the way she creates her characters, because all her characters are so cool and so relatable. Okay, see, there are lots of flaws in Harry Potter as well, which I noticed. I mean, noticed when I heard certain podcasts about Harry Potter. But then again, they are adults who are like scrutinizing the books and stuff. Me as a kid, and even they said, like, you know, as a kid, because basically her ideal target audience was kids, right? Initially, when she wrote the book. So, like, kids won't think of all of that, like, you know, how everyone has alliteration names, like, all the wizards have alliteration names, like, what is it?
Nearly headless.
Salazar, Slytherin, yeah, like that stuff.
Helena
So anyways.
Hufflepuff, yeah.
Yeah, okay, whatever. But then, Yeah, so then the way she creates all her characters is so cool, and they're very relatable for our age. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking about Harry Potter because then it'll keep going on.
Now, Harry Potter is a very nice series. I'm of course really intrigued by the story of the author itself, how she started struggling to even publish her book, and people didn't actually believe it was a good story, and people didn't want to publish her book. But afterwards, the way she has put things on the book, and when it became famous, people loved it. So I really, as a person, as author, I think she's a marvelous person, and whatever she thought process was really awesome. The way she has, I've not read the book though, but the movies, Harry Potter, uh, I didn't watch the later movies, but when it came out, I watched them, and the story was it was not the typical magical movie. It was totally different. Mm.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Her world building is just terrific. Like the way she expands on Hogwarts and gives like a lot of backstory about what has happened there before Harry and everyone got there. It's just really nice.
And how does she imagine all of that? Like that whole like end fights. They are like the most like the last one or two chapters of the book are so like nail biting. I'm like so like I don't like to like and this Ronak keeps coming and annoying me whenever I'm reading and it's so annoying like which page are you on and blah 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 and it's so annoying because it's so intense like a fight going on and then he comes in. But anyways.
Okay, so for segment 3, we're going into the resolution of our episode. We want to discuss how the pandemic has had an effect on the film industry and the audience's preference and habits.
Yeah, so Corona just ruins everything.
Yep.
But yeah, Corona ruins everything. And so it has had like quite a distinct impact on the film industry, and also I feel like a very big impact on people's attitude towards books because I feel like more people are actually getting time to sit down and read books during the lockdown. But okay, what do you guys think? Like what's the effect of the pandemic on the film industry?
Yeah, I think lots of the movies, especially, the release dates have been pushed. Like for Black
Yeah.
Widow, most of the phase for Avengers, all of the movies had been the release dates had been pushed
Yeah.
to the next year or this year.
And I've seen that frustration in Ranak's face, like throughout the pandemic. Like, ugh, when are they going to release it?
Yeah, so many movies that were supposed to come out last year have still not come out, and a lot of them have. But what major studios are doing right now is adopting like a blended kind of model. Yeah, so they're released. So Warner Brothers, for example, they've said that every movie in 2021 is going on their streaming service like Netflix called HBO Max. So it goes there on day one, and it has a simultaneous theatrical release as well. So you could either subscribe to the HBO Max or go into theaters if it's open in your country. But then again, that's had a major effect on the profits that the movies have made. So for example, Black Widow was released on Disney Plus as well as theaters, and now it's made a lot of losses since it's been pirated very easily, right? Anything that comes out online, day one it's available for full HD. Anyone can watch it without paying. So Scarlett Johansson's actually suing Disney for that. She's suing them for $50 million because that's how much she did not make.
Whoa.
Yeah, because it's Black Widow is actually the most pirated movie of the pandemic. I'd read. So it's affecting the actors as well as the studio's capabilities to make a sequel for movies.
I think even though they have had to switch to a lot of like the, platforms like now most people use Netflix, Amazon Prime, and stuff like that. But then even though they have to like switch to this from like regular theaters, I feel like I don't know if this is true or not because I don't know any statistics about this. But then I feel like a lot more people are watching it because of that, at least from what I know, because what people are doing is they're bored at home. So they're like, okay, I'm going to watch Netflix. I'm going to watch this TV show. I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
So like a lot more people are firstly getting the time to read books and watch movies. And I think it's mostly watch movies because I don't even know why. I just read the book. But no.
Yeah.
And then, yeah. Another thing that I wanted to talk about, right, is about the like the lack of fresh content that is coming out because of the pandemic, because especially when it was at its peak, because people were not able, especially in India, because of in India it's really bad, right?
Yep.
So like Bollywood and all these Hindi TV shows and all of that, they had to like halt their shooting because they could not meet. Now it's all back to normal, but like they could not shoot and stuff. And so that time, all these Hindi TV shows that have been going on from like 3-4 years that my mom sits and watches, they all have started playing from episode 1 again.
Yeah.
To like show like everything, because people want content, they need some entertainment source, and so they're just starting to play all the previous episodes while they couldn't give fresh episodes. So
Yeah.
there's kind of like a lack of fresh content.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. What I noticed during this pandemic time, especially in the movie industry, is that the streaming, as mentioned, a lot of movies are coming out in Netflix, in Amazon Prime, and things like that. So I think the making of movies also has changed. Now, actually, I watched
Yeah.
some movies, and I feel that they have reduced their geographical presence, like shooting a movie, going to places, and they try to build
Yeah.
their own set and try to make a movie out of that set. So I think that's kind of a new way of making movies at the moment, and also because it's restricted to certain things, like people, not a lot of people interacting and things like that. The storytelling is a bit different. I don't know. I watched recently a Tamil movie. It's a boxing movie. I can't remember the name. It's Sara Repet or something like that. And it's everything is in one small set. The whole story evolves from beginning to end in one set. They have taken it into a different time zone, like on this in 60s or for 60s or 70s, and it's a small set and not a lot of people, but very talented actors. So they have more talented actors working on it, and less significant actors were on the movie. I think that kind of content is out, and the movie is pretty good. The storytelling was good, even though we didn't have picturesque, songs coming up, on a top of a mountain or things like that. But the but the storytelling was really nice, and it's really it's a change in the movie industry itself. They have adapted themselves to the pandemic, and they are trying to come up, because it's the movie industry is one of the biggest industries in India, in Hollywood, and places like that. So a lot of revenue and things like that, if they don't have, they might have to close down production and things like that. So I think they have become
Yeah.
very creative on how to give content out, and I think they are coping pretty well. People, I think most of the people now have the liberty of watching a movie on a big screen at home. I mean, if they have a big TV, and so yeah, so I think, yeah, things have changed. I don't know for the better, but I think things are changing because of the pandemic, and it's not as bad as we thought. Like we will not get any movies, or we will not have any entertainment. Yes, it's certainly less, but I think the content is much better now. I think they are actually focusing on content rather than other commercial stuff, like movies that come out with no moral or no story. Yeah, things
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
because the show
speaking
must
on
go
that-
on.
Yes.
Yeah. So speaking on that creativity, actually, there's one thing I'd like to add. Last year, as soon as the pandemic hit, Zendaya and John David Washington, they actually made an entire movie in their house, like indoors, called Malcolm and Marie. It's there on Netflix, and they shot it themselves. They wrote the script themselves, and it's completely shot in one location, indoors. It's a 1.5 hour or 2 hour long movie in one location. It's a continuous shot, basically.
Oh,
So
I watched.
that's a
Yeah,
pretty creative.
I watched a movie like that. It was like a Malayalam movie, and like the whole movie, it was like shot with a phone, like through video call. It was like super cool. Yeah, it was an interesting movie also. I forgot the name though.
Okay, but we can't end this episode without giving some movie and book recommendations. So we got some recommendations from our Insta followers, and you guys too, if you have any recommendations that you want to give our listeners, you totally can. So first, let's read out some of the recommendations that we got. Most of them are movies. Okay, maybe you can read out some.
Okay, so my sister
Mm-hmm.
said Train to Busan. It's an amazing movie.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah,
you
I've
guys
heard
should
of
watch it. It's an amazing movie. It's
I haven't
awesome.
heard of it. Okay, another one by Charming William is It's Okay Not to Be Okay. That's the K-drama, right?
Yeah, I think.
Mm-hmm. Then Forgotten. What is that?
I don't know.
I think these are depressing books because he reads depressing books. That's what he said.
And he was like, I take time to heal from the books I've read before. That was okay.
No, but that's so true. Like when you read a book, once you finish like the last chapter, you'll be like pondering on everything that just happened. It'll be so like dense in your
Yeah.
mind, and you feel so, I don't know, it's a weird feeling.
It has never happened to me. But anyways. Okay, another book that I want to recommend, and even though this is called A Feeling for Fiction, this is a non-fiction book, but I would still like recommend it. I recently got it. It's called Ikigai, and it is so good. I've read only 3 chapters, but I'm so hooked. I'm trying to read like 1 chapter before I go to bed every day, and I don't read a lot of non-fiction. This is only like I think the second non-fiction book I'm reading, but it is so good, and everyone should read it because it's basically they talk about the Japanese secret to living a happy and a long life. But more than that, the way that just the information is so cool for me. You guys should read it. Do you guys have any other recommendations?
Yeah, so for all the Marvel / MCU fans that are watching this, before the Hawkeye show comes out this year, please read the Hawkeye graphic novel by Matt Fraction. There's just 22 issues. It'll take you about 2 to 3 days to get through, and it's gonna help you get a lot of knowledge before the show happens. But the show is gonna be different to the comics, but it'll definitely help, and it'll make you like Hawkeye as a character more, because so far what we've seen is in the movies is like he's quite a boring character. He doesn't have much to do. He's like the least favorite, I think, for everyone. But this comic actually elevates him a lot more, and the show is going to do that as well. His popularity is going to go up. It's coming out in November.
I can
I
totally
recommend
relate
reading.
because I know everything about Marvel. No, but Ronak, he speaks so passionately about Marvel and stuff. He has his own movie review channel as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't upload videos, but I write reviews on Instagram now, yeah.
Cool. Okay, so I think that's a wrap. I was like waiting to say that it's a wrap, you guys. But that was like a super duper fun episode. Thank you so much to our wonderful co-stars who came. And thank you to our wonderful audience for listening to this.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you so much for having us. Yes.
Thank you guys for coming.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
If you enjoy listening to us, please make sure to follow us on YouTube, Spotify, and Instagram, and everywhere else.
Everywhere else. Share this episode with all your fiction lover friends and give us your feedback, suggestions, criticisms, and yeah, we're open to feedback. Thank you so much for listening, and bye.
May the force be with
Oh,
you.
yeah. And may the force be with
May the
you.
force be with you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.